the continent from there, which is a legitimate aim for them, but for me unacceptable.
Sure.
And I think they knew that if that kind of thing was developing when I was there, they would not have access. I said, no, if you want to be an embassy, be a regular embassy. Every other embassy is in the city of Freetown. Why do you want to move up to the mountains, you see?
Exactly. Still have some time left.
So for that, I'm sure there's a big documentation about me in the State Department. Someday under the right to know knowledge, I'm going to ask what they know about me.
Okay. No. Yeah, okay. So, where were we? Oh, okay, here's, if you had been elected president, how would you have handled the rebel war?
Whether I am overestimating or not, I believe that if I had been elected president of Sierra Leone, the rebel war from the government side would have finished at once. And therefore, for the Sanko and the others, with kind of respect which I told you from what I've told you, you had for me, he would have said, look, we came to fight a government that was not doing things which were good for us. Now we have somebody, why should we continue to fight? Except that they'd gone so far with the use of drugs and things like that, and getting money, which they would have had, which I would not have had, they would have said, why should we? It's unpredictable what should have happened, but I'm confident that within a short time, everything would have finished peacefully.
Well, you know, we've covered an awful lot of these questions that I had. What contributions to Sierra Leone are you the proudest of?
With what?
What contributions, your contributions to Sierra Leone are you the proudest of?
Would I have been deprived of? I don't understand.
No, what I'm saying is, when you look back on all the things you've done in Sierra Leone, what accomplishments are you the proudest of?
Oh, just the fact that I loved my country and I was willing to do anything for them. And people remember that. I don't think there's anybody in Sierra Leone, even the SLP people, who have a bad thing to say about me, because there's nothing. And people will say, at last we had a leader who kept reminding us that a leader should be a servant. And that's what I was. Let me tell you funny things. I mean, these are little things. If I was in Freetown, all through this election, I had a car. But if I wanted to go to the post office or to the bank or to a meeting, the Democratic people here had a big place where they were trying to help us. And people would come, men and women, and they would all be walking. So I would walk. Minister, hey, doctor, are you walking? Why are you walking? Do you have a car? I said, why should I walk? When I walk, the people want to come and greet me. And what is there to walk 2 or 3 blocks, which I get into a car with a driver and be led and then to come and get me. And people know me that way, that I am one of them. And they will remember that. They don't know any other president, even Sam Milton, except going to the beach, which he liked to go. But he was too old to walk in seats like I do. And they will never see me in Freetown going to a meeting or anything walking, not walking, getting a driver.
Are there any misconceptions that you want to clear up about you?
Yes, people still have a very strong misconception, which is not the people's misconception, but the opponents. They say I have a great ambition. All my ambition has been to be president of Sierra Leone, so that I will use anything possible, hook or by crook, to become president. But they've seen that that is not so.
The one criticism, if that's...
As for money, they know I have no money. That's one thing. That's what, let me tell you what has happened very recently now.
Yeah.
While they were waiting for this next election, a group of Sierra Leoneans here, who were part of my party which went to start there, some of whom had said, oh, we're so glad that Dr. Karefa-Smart did not win the election, because if he'd won the election, we would not have had an opportunity to become rich.
Oh.
He made us lose that. So now they went back, and because before they went home, they came and called on me and said, Doctor, we are going back, the party, we have to stand for election. You have said that you are not going to take part anymore. why don't you just say that you've given up? And I said, I cannot. The Constitution does not allow me to do so. The Constitution says there must be a convention at which I, as the leader, should be there. I will resign, as I've told you, I'm going to resign, and then they can. But this, oh no, we want to go and do it quickly. You say you cannot come now. So as a result of that meeting with us, they went back and reported that I had affirmed that they were now the leaders of SLPP, have given up altogether. And as soon as our people at home did, you know what they did? They took them to court. They knew they had no evidence, so they refused to go to court. And the court has said, in judgment, they failed to come and defend themselves, that they were claiming to be the party, which they are not. So that is the whole thing. People still think that there is no way really that I can say that I don't want to go back. But then they put that meaning to say, the only thing I have in mind is to become the president of Sierra Leone, which I told them I'm no longer interested. First of all, with my diagnosis, I don't know when it's going to take me one way or the other.
Well, the only criticism I've ever heard of you is that I've heard a few people say, well, he goes to Sierra Leone when things are okay, and then when they're not, he leaves.
But fortunately, you've seen the record.
Right.
The reason why I go to Sierra Leone is because I had to leave Sierra Leone for some reason.
Sure.
And as soon as I had the opportunity, I came back.
Yeah. No, I understand now.
That is so, but they don't see that. They only see me coming back at the time of election, and they say that's what I do.
Well, they don't know about the threat to your life from Shaka Stevens and all the rest of it.
They don't know, because nobody has told them, you see.
Yeah.
I've not written like the others have written, in which they would see the whole story of what happened. If they see that story, they say, we don't blame you, Pat. Which I'm hoping to correct. In my memoirs, I'm just telling you the way I've told you, with no plea for anything, just telling them this is what happened. And including all these episodes which you've asked me to illustrate, they will tell, this is what happened. So if you see that and still have the opinion you have about me, fine. If you see that and correct your opinion about me, fine. But what I'm not yet sure about is whether I should write at the end of my memoirs what my vision is for the future. I don't know whether that's a legitimate...
I think it is. In fact, I'll tell you why it is, because you've already pointed out that the previous presidents of Sierra Leone didn't have any vision.
They failed the country.
So that's the missing factor, the missing ingredient in this whole story is the vision. So if you have a vision, I think...
Well, it can only be as a vision. I'll tell them that plainly. And the way I want to put it, which may influence the title, you know, there's a legend amongst my people in the north that Winter Farmer, who was a leader who brought people, because migration came from east to Sierra Leone, that he led his people to Sierra Leone, but when he got to the ocean, there was no other thing to do, no other fight to fight, so he took his bow and flung it in the sky, and that's the rainbow. And I'm going to try to see how can I connect that vision of something to be done, but no opportunity to do it. So let's cast a rainbow for people to remember. How can I connect that to say that what I've been trying to do in some kind of way is to see that our people were meant to do something, and the opportunity to do it has not been there, and we must hold that vision. But I don't know how to frame it.
I'm going to think about it.
Do help us. If you can find something like that, that would be a catchy title. I mean, Fauna wrote something else which nobody understands until she explains it. But I want something that people can understand. And the people in Sierra Leone will see, yes, winter farmers are rainbow. Maybe we can all look forward to that.
Something like the rainbow is still there.
Something like that. Any way you can help.
Okay. You're quoted somewhere saying about Kaba's presidency that his government has failed to demonstrate any political will to improve the quality of the lives of Sierra Leoneans.
I do not deny that at all. I still believe that. He's not trying it. 8 years he's been there. What has happened?
Nothing.
Instead of that, economics, which I know nothing at all about. But how can we justify, every time I look at the Times or the Economist and see the list of Sierra Leone has now to pay $2,850 loans for $1. When we became independent, the British pound, the American dollar, $2 had to buy a loan. $2 now we have to pay. What has happened? How could we allow anybody, no matter how powerful they are, to make us get to that stage where, with the same resources which have not diminished, with the same people, with the same everything, to get to the place where we have to pay $2,000? And therefore means our people are living in poverty.
The other thing, Doctor, too, is that Sierra Leone is still at the bottom of the UN index.
But no, so we exchange Bangladesh some year.
Bangladesh.
It's ridiculous, ridiculous.
I didn't realize it. So they could say, well, we're not doing too badly, we're on top of Bangladesh.
And therefore they'll say from the leaders down. And this is what the British have now openly stated in British statements. There is corruption from the top down. When they are so brave enough to say that, then they've said everything.
Do you think that that as a result of what's happened in the last several years with the rebel war and all the rest of it, that things like death and suffering are just sort of taken as commonplace now?
I don't think they're taken as commonplace, but they've taught us a lesson. Now people can see how far down we can get away from what we were meant to be. And this will be an inspiration for any future leaders to try to rebuild, put the train back on its track. This is my analogy I'm using already. And we need to. That's why my wife and I have decided I must go back home next year. We decided not to go this year because of the election, because they say the same thing.
Yeah, oh,
See, he's come back because of the election. So when the elections are over, and but my great hope, maybe you don't have to record this, but you can record it. My great hope is that young Magai, Albert Magai's son, has got the vision which I have. And he talked to me about it and said, Doctor, I know what my father did to you. I know what you meant to my uncle, my father's big brother. And I believe I share your views. He says, you don't have to say you're coming back to SLPP, but will you tell the people that you think you understand what I'm after? And I've told my people, I've said I've looked at everybody, no candidate in my party, none of the others can do what I believe young Magai can do for our country. So if you want to support him, I give you my support. That's what I've told everyone. So I'm not going for the election because I don't want to take part in that. But after it's over, which I hope, that's why I brought it in, I do hope that if they follow what the Constitution allows them to do, since they know they are so weak, form a coalition. And all of them vote for members of parliament by party. They can be elected as members of SLPP, UNPP, APC, etc. But for president, they must choose one person whom they must follow. And I hope they choose John Magai. He alone can defeat Berewa. Because Berewa, being the clever lawyer he is, will use the resources at his disposal, free transportation, government money, civil servants whom he can tell what to do, and they will just win the election, which means another 8 years of going downhill, which I would hate to see.
Yeah.
So that's part of my vision. That cannot go in my memoirs, but my vision is that leadership will come which understands that to be a true leader is to be the servant of the people.
Well, my last question, which really summarizes everything else, is how did Sierra Leone, 1961, country with this tremendous future with diamonds and bauxite and rutile and God knows what, how did it wind up at the bottom of the UN index, and how did it get the reputation of being a place where they chop off arms and legs and the whole bit? How did we go from there to here in how many
missed
years?
Opportunities. We had opportunities we did not seize. The first opportunity we did not seize was to forever heal this breach between our Creole brothers and sisters and us in the protectorate. If we started following Sir Milton's line a little, bringing in people like Ned John and King and Pastor Metzger and all those people, making Creole people our ambassadors, etc. If we followed along those lines, we would have started healing the British, which in the end it is this British which ended to this thing. Because who was in the army mostly? People who said this is none of our business until these protected people have taken over. Let them do what they can. If they joined us with their talent, their abilities, which they have,